Mr. Onyemichi is an articulate teacher who is able to effectively pay attention to individual students' different teaching and learning needs. A committed and dedicated professional who is able to teach, motivate, and direct students to maximize performance.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Mr. Onye, and I'm here to talk about matter and change. Well, that's the topic. We're going to talk about the properties of matter, which is a lesson on the matter and change. Now, of course, everyone knows that matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. So that's the basic explanation of matter. Now, first of all, when you hear of matter, the first thing you ask yourself is, what are certain things made of? Now, in this particular page, you have to ask yourself, what is this glass made of? Why does this glass behave the way it does? Now, once you're able to answer that particular question, then you are at least one step ahead of understanding what matter is. Okay, so you're going to have to describe different types of matter. You're going to have to describe the properties of matter. There's what is called intensive and extensive properties of matter. So as we go through this lesson, you're going to know what these properties are. You're going to know why a particular object has certain intensive properties and why they have certain extensive properties. All right, and then you're also going to observe different things about the properties of solid, properties of liquid, and gases. Okay, so as we go through this course, you are definitely going to be aware of why matter behaves the way it does. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Like I gave you the basic definition of matter: anything that has mass, it takes up space. Now, of course, mass is the amount of matter in an object. You can imagine having, like, when you go to the beach, okay, you build a sand castle, you have a lot of sand in the sand castle. Now imagine those sands being the matter that makes up the sand castle, except that in actual sense, matter is way smaller than a grain of sand. So that's the illustration to show you what matter is. And so the mass is the amount of matter. In the case of the sandcastle, the amount of sand particles that make up the sandcastle. So this is an illustration to help explain what matter is. Okay, so you see the picture of the basketball and the golf course, on the golf ball, sorry. You see that they are made up of matter, but different types of matter. One is bigger, one is smaller. Now, also, the amount of the mass of a particular object will determine how heavy or how light it is. So the more particles, the more matter there is in an object, the heavier it is. All right. So these are things we're going to also see. Like you see, the mass of the basketball is greater than the mass of a golf ball because it contains more matter in the basketball. All right, and obviously the volume is the space. Now, the space that the golf ball occupies, that is its volume. The space that the basketball occupies is also its volume. So the amount of space a particular object occupies, that's what is known as its volume. Now, the volume can be for that of a solid, it can be for a liquid. It can also be for a gas. Imagine blowing some air in the balloon. Now, the balloon itself, the air inside it, that's the space, okay, for the air to be in the balloon. Also, we'll talk about the solid. The liquid, imagine putting water in a glass. Now, that particular water in that particular glass is the volume of the water. So that's what volume has to talk about, the space that any amount of matter takes. All right? So we go further. Now, when we talk about extensive properties, okay, extensive property depends on the amount of matter in an object. Okay, you can use the word sample. The sample is just simply a representation of an object. Okay, so that's what an extensive property is. And of course, these are the two main properties of matter: extensive and intensive. Once I explain the extensive, we're going to explain what intensive properties mean. So the only examples of extensive properties are mass and volume. because they talk about the amount of matter in an object. Okay, the mass is um, the amount of matter in an object. The volume is the space that amount takes. All right. Now that is what extensive property is, and every matter, every object has an extensive property. That is to say that every object has mass and volume. All right. So that's one thing. Okay, so when you talk about intensive property, it talks about how that mass or how that matter behaves. Okay, take for instance the basketball here in the picture. The basketball it may be made of different materials. Okay, for example, it can be made of rubber. Now the rubber is what makes it bounce. It can be made of synthetic leather. The leather also can help it bounce. Okay, so that particular property is what is called an extensive property. It actually describes what the matter can do. All right. Take for instance iron, or metal. Very good. A general description metal. A metal can bend. Okay, so that's what it can do. Magnets. A magnet can magnetize, can attract other magnets. Okay, that's what it can do. A copper wire. That's it can be rolled into. It can be used for electrical wiring because it has conductivity. So these are the intensive property that describes what the matter can do. All right. So we talked about what matter is. We talked about how everything in this world is made up of matter. We've also talked about the types of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. We talked about the properties of matter. Okay, so in the next class, we're going to talk more about the physical properties of matter because when you come to the intensive properties, that's when you now go into the physical properties of matter. That's when you go into things like solubility, luster, density, go into things like boiling point, melting point. All these are physical properties of matter. Also, on the intensive property, we talk about the chemical properties of matter. Now, the chemical properties of matter, talk about flammability. That's how something is able to burn. You talk about the reactivity with water, or reactivity with other substances. Okay. You also talk about toxicity. So these are different chemical properties of different types of matter. Not all matter have all these properties. Different objects have some of these properties. Okay. Some objects can have the same property, chemical or physical. So in the next class, we're going to talk about this. Thank you very much. Have a nice